Hey, this is Todd. Piece of advice that I see come up often in forums across the internet, whether it's Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, wherever. GMs will post something, a choice they have to make, a question they have, and oftentimes folks will chime back in with, hey, do what's the most fun for the players. Which one is fun? Do what's fun. Now, before I go any further, I'm not trying to say that we should do things that are unfun or that I'm somehow against fun, because I'm not. The game should be fun. But I think there are two types of fun, and I'm going to use a different word for the second type of fun because I think it's maybe bigger than fun, or not bigger, but different. It can be composed of different things that maybe we associate when we use the term fun, and that's satisfaction. Something can be fun, but not satisfying, and I think some things can be not particularly fun, but be satisfying. And what does this have to do with games? Well, I think oftentimes these choices are posed that, hey, do what's fun, but I think really it might be better to think of it in terms of what's the most satisfying, or what might lead to the more satisfying outcomes. So just to further kind of define things here, when I think about fun, put in food terms, I think of something that's sweet, like a sugary snack, right? You a lollipop, a candy cane. You put in your mouth an M&M, right? It's sweet, it's fun. Ooh, that's nice, great. It feels good. When I think about satisfying, I think like a feeling that you might have after having a really good meal. You just feel really nice. It just feels really, I don't want to use the term satisfying, since it's really a poor use to define satisfaction. But you just feel fulfilled. You feel fulfilled at the end of it. As far as games go, I think a good game is a balance between having those moments that are fun, those little bursts of M&M sugary goodness, and then also feeling at the end of it that you are fulfilled in some way. And of course, this is all going to scale. I don't expect someone, if you're playing Candyland, Betty, if you're playing Candyland, I don't expect someone to have the same fulfilling sense of satisfaction at the end of it that you might have from watching the Citizen Kane. There's clearly we're talking about things on some kind of relative scale. Obviously, satisfaction is relative. There's a different sense of fulfillment that you might get when you play Candyland, which is to say not much at all, unless you're a 4-year-old, in which case you might feel very satisfied by playing Candyland. And then the kind of fulfillment or satisfaction you get from watching a great film like Citizen Kane that is not particularly a lot of fun, at least in a lot of its moments. At least if you watch it like I do, maybe some folks find Citizen Kane a barrel of fun, but might be fulfilling. And of course, insert your own favorite movie there if you prefer Godfather 1 and 2, whatever. But my point being that some things that are fun aren't necessarily satisfying. Some things that are satisfying aren't necessarily fun. So what does this have to do with role-playing games? Why am I rambling about Citizen Kane and Candyland and blah, blah, blah? Well, what I feel like is that if you just aim for in-the-moment fun, I think you can not only lose out on the satisfaction in just not achieving something, I think you can also lose something. So if you think about it, if you are just doling out those little M&Ms of fun, at some point, just like if we're eating a big bowl of candy, you reach a limit and you just go, I just can't have any more sugar. I'm frazzled. It's just no longer doing anything for me, right? And I think, and the same thing is in the inverse. I think if you feel like you're planning something that's super satisfying at the end, but it's just a miserable slog, no one's going to get to the end. No one's going to get to the bottom of the bowl of M&Ms, and no one's going to get to the end of this bog of eternal slog to get to this satisfying conclusion. It's going to be all about balancing. So when GMs give out this advice to each other saying, hey, go for what's fun, I think it's a little bit facile. It's not looking at the nuances. And of course, we're on internet forums. If you're on Twitter, we're down to 144 characters, or now it's up, but whatever. There's character limits. There's always sort of limits to how much you can comment, how much you can get into. The discourse tends to be very surface level. And even the best of times, someone's posting a huge, long pasta of text. People are trying to make pithy responses. Oh, pick the one that's fun. So you want to, if you see that advice, if you are given that advice, if you are the receptor of that advice, what you want to do is really think a little bit deeper. Don't think just about what's fun. You want to think about that balance, and you think about what's going to lead to satisfying end goals. Because we could think of lots of things that, hey, if we just look at that one little thing and we eliminate it, should make the game more fun, right? What's more fun for the players? Being knocked unconscious for so many rounds, or just being able to absorb and keep going? Oh, being able to absorb and keep going. What's more fun, if the boss hits them and does a critical hit or not? Okay, well, let's take that out. What's more fun, if they just get to do everything they want, or if there are things that force them to stop? Okay, do everything they want. But if you put all those together, it's putting some of those together. And granted, I'm being simplistic. I guess you could say I'm building somewhat of a straw man, but it's for my purposes here. Obviously, things are complex, but my point being that if you just take each little decision and just pick the one, and that little thing is going to be more fun, chances are you're going to end up with a game that isn't very satisfying at all, to the point where players may find it boring, unfulfilling. They may even feel like they're on a railroad, because oftentimes the feeling of a railroad is that there's very little to no friction on the path that the GM wants you to go on, and super amounts of friction going forward. So I've actually had this in which, and I was the GM of this, where I was trying to run a sandbox game, but because the players felt like everywhere they went, this thing was happening, they felt like they were just in a corridor. They felt like their choices didn't matter because I was facilitating them whatever direction they wanted to go. It was a misunderstanding between us of what it meant to be in a sandbox, but my point is that they didn't feel like there were enough barriers. Everything was just so smooth, and they were just able to do 360 degrees, walk wherever they want, go where they want. They thought like, okay, I must just be funneling them. There just must be invisible escalator that they're riding up to where I wanted them to go. By the same token, it just becomes so easy, right? Like in easy mode in a game, if you ever took a video game and say, hey, put it on that beginner mode, and you've played video games before, and you're just playing it, and everything's happening and everything's coming up roses and everything seems so easy, and then it just gets boring. Like I used to have fun turning on God mode cheats, but they just get boring after a while. It's like, okay, on Grand Theft Auto, I'm in God mode. Now I'm in 5 alarms, and I got rocket launchers with endless ammo, and I'm just blowing the helicopters out of the sky, and I'm just doing all this stuff. But after about 10 minutes, in theory, it should just be fun. Fun. It's not fun to run out of ammo. It's not fun when they shoot and kill you. It's not fun, whatever. But those things make it more satisfying. And of course, we could break down different kinds of fun. There is a certain kind of fun from having to budget your ammunition. There's a certain kind of fun from having to run from the law and hide and try to figure out how to escape. Those are different kinds of fun, but I think they often get subsumed by this sense of fun as in that first thing in front of you, because really I think what a lot of those are is they really lead back to that satisfaction. It might not be fun running away when everybody in the world is shooting at you in that moment to moment running. It could be frustrating. You're watching your health bar go down, you're trying to hide, you're doing all this stuff. It's stressful, maybe, depending on how you approach these games. But when you do it, when you find that perfect spot and you're able to hunker down and you're able to zig when everyone else zagged and get away, it feels really good. I think sports a lot. Games that are really hard fought, they're not fun. I remember playing tennis against a guy I knew, and he was really good. I was not, but he was just, I think he was taking it easy on me. He was being sloppy, basically. But for me, it was super, super tense. Every serve, I just felt my whole body just kind of reverberating with tension. And I ended up winning a set, and we had to leave. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to play again, because he's just going to beat the heck out of me. Next time we play, I'm going to take my victory. I will retire from the competition at 1-0, take my set, and go home. I wouldn't have said that game was fun in each individual point, but man, it felt satisfying to actually eke out that hard-fought win. And I think anybody who's played organized sports probably has similar feelings. Those moments when you're in a tightly matched game and everything just seems hard. It doesn't really feel fun, but then when you get through it, either you win or you lose, and you're able to sign, you're able to let that tension release. There's a satisfaction that you're a part of this something special. So when someone tells you, hey, just do what's fun, Don't just think about that kind of candy sugar. Well, sure, it'll be fun if I give them an extra this, or it'll be fun if I eliminate this thing, or it'll be fun if I just do this thing. Think about the experience you're trying to build towards. And that is it's a harder thing to do. I don't have some pithy thing of here's what leads to satisfaction. I think you have to think about, if you've played sports, think about the kind of highs and lows in sports. You can think about in films and books, comic books, different media, the highs and lows that heroes go through to lead to their conclusions. I'm not trying to turn this into a hero's journey and you should have this and that and the other. But I think we all understand and appreciate that stories that have a more fulfilling conclusion aren't just ramps of success. But I think in our games, we can sometimes, I think particularly if you're a newer GM and you don't necessarily have the self-confidence in your own abilities, you can get people's advice that will lead you to build these wonderfully smooth, fun ramps. But then after you initiate all the stuff you put on your game, you realize that it didn't turn out that smooth and it didn't give you that nice high ramp. And maybe players weren't satisfied the way you thought they were because you gave them all that candy. Everything, if you do it to excess, is going to lose its flavor. You're going to look for something else. So balance things out. Fun is important. It is a game. But games also oftentimes have stuff that's not fun in the moment. When you're playing Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders, and you hit the chute, you hit the snake, you slide down. You ever played that with your son, daughter, cousin, whatever you remember playing when you were a kid? Sometimes it is extremely unsatisfying to hit that big snake or chute right when you think you're going to win. But that is rewarded with higher satisfaction if you are able to, say, navigate and pull out a victory because someone else hits a chute or a slide and goes down beneath you and you're able to work your way back up and you win. That victory feels all the better because you had difficulties. If you just walked your way up and hit nothing, you might think, wow, that's lucky or fun. You're probably not going to remember it. It's not memorable. It's not going to be satisfying. But when you think about the things that you really have to fight for and push for and do that and really put in effort and feel those good moments, feel low moments, and then you come out and survive on the other end, those are the things that really stick with you. And I think those are the experiences that RPGs are really designed to give. And to do that, not just about fun, but it's about creating fulfilling, satisfying experiences. So keep that in mind when you get some advice. That's all I got for now. As usual, if you like this video and you appreciate this sort of advice and videos and content, really appreciate if you give me the thumbs up on the video. Please subscribe to support me and let me know that you are enjoying this kind of content that I put out. Other than that, game on. I'll talk to you later.